St. Clement's Day, celebrated annually on November 23rd, was a significant holiday for metalworkers and blacksmiths, marking the feast of Pope Clement I, the patron saint of their trade. Clement, the third Bishop of Rome from approximately 88 to 99, was martyred during Emperor Trajan's reign by being tied to an anchor and cast into the sea. This dramatic form of execution linked him symbolically to iron, the material of anchors, and thus to the craft of metalworking. Legends further suggest that Clement was the first to refine iron from ore and shoe a horse, enhancing his status as a patron saint. The timing of the feast, between Halloween and Christmas, positioned it as a midwinter celebration, aligning with seasonal folk traditions. For centuries, metalworkers marked St. Clement's Day with ritual, revelry, and fire, known as Old Clem's Night. The celebrations began with the dramatic firing of the anvil, where a smith packed gunpowder into a small hole in an anvil and struck it with a hammer, causing a thunderous explosion and showers of sparks. This ritual not only symbolized the fiery essence of the smith's trade, but also tested the anvil's durability, with weak anvils breaking under pressure and needing reforging. Following the anvil firing, the smith or an apprentice, dressed in a wig, mask, and cloak to represent Old Clem, led a procession of smiths through the streets. The procession stopped at taverns, where boisterous singing was followed by demands for free beer or money for the Clem feast. Traditional toasts included true hearts and sound bottoms, check shirts and leather aprons, and songs like Here's to Old Vulcan. As bold as a lion, a large shop and no iron, a big hearth and no coal, and a large pair of bellowses full of holes. In some locations, such as Bramber, West Sussex, an effigy of Old Clem was paraded, followed by the blacksmith's anthem, Twanky Dillo. In urban areas like Woolwich Dockyard, apprentices played Old Clem, carrying him through town and toasting to the memory of Old Clem and prosperity to all his descendants. Rural traditions included Clementing, or Clemening, where children begged for apples and pears, singing songs like Clemencing, Clemencing, apples and pears, or Clemeny, Clemeny, Clemeny mine, a roasted apple and some good red wine. This practice was often combined with cattening on St. Catherine's Day, November 25th, with children singing Catten and Clemen, be here, be here. Some of your apples and some of your beer. Although Henry VIII restricted begging in London churches in 1541, the tradition continued outside churches. St. Clement's Day likely has roots that extend beyond Christian martyrdom, reflecting pre-Christian reverence for blacksmiths as semi-magical figures. In ancient Europe, smiths were seen as divine, working with fire and iron to create tools, weapons, and sacred artifacts. One enduring myth is that of Wayland the Smith, a legendary Saxon blacksmith appearing in Norse and English tradition, said to forge weapons for gods and heroes, sometimes portrayed as a sorcerer. Given the feast's timing, just before winter, some historians suggest it absorbed older pagan festivals honoring smiths, fire, and craftsmanship. The ritualistic use of fire, processions, and effigies bear hallmarks of seasonal folk traditions, adapted to Christian forms, but retaining ancient roots. As industrialization advanced in the 19th century, local and trade-based folk customs like St. Clement's Day began to fade. The rise of factory work diminished the prominence of the village blacksmith, and stricter laws and attitudes around fireworks and gunpowder discouraged customs like anvil firing. By the late 1800s, celebrations had all but vanished, surviving only in historical references, local lore, and occasional reenactments by historical societies. While St. Clement's Day is no longer widely celebrated, modern revivals persist in several locations. Burwash, East Sussex. An effigy of Old Clem is displayed at an inn for the annual Clem feast every November 23rd. Hastings, a procession from St. Clement's Church, includes Old Clem and St. Catherine, whose feast day is November 24th, with anvil firing, songs, and cat and cakes. Finch Foundry, Devon. Ironworkers gather to celebrate St. Clement's Day at Finch Foundry, Devon. Smiths demonstrate their art and display decorative ironware as part of a national competition, and the public can enjoy Maurice dancing, mince pies, and mulled wine. St. Clement Danes Church, London. St. Clement is commemorated every April with a service for children at St. Clement Danes Church, London, initiated in 1919 by Reverend William Pennington. The service ends with the distribution of oranges and lemons, linked to the nursery rhyme, Oranges and Lemons. St. Clement's Day has left its mark in literature, notably in Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, where the protagonist Pip sings a forged ditty, Hammer Boys Round, Old Clem, with a thump and a sound. Old Clem. Beat it out, Old Clem, with a clink for the stout. Old Clem. Blow the fire, Old Clem. Roaring drier, soaring higher, Old Clem. This reference underscores the cultural resonance of the feast, embedding it in the collective memory of English folklore. St. Clement's Day is more than a quaint footnote in the Christian calendar. It is a doorway into the deep history of a trade once revered as mystical and vital. The celebrations, with their rituals of fire and iron, reflect the sacred power of the forge and the craftsmen who wielded it. As we consider the modern world's disconnection from traditional crafts, the fiery rituals of St. Clement's Day serve as a compelling reminder of how deeply culture, myth, and labor were once entwined. Though largely forgotten today, the legacy of St. Clement's Day endures in the few remaining celebrations and in the historical records that preserve its memory. Many thanks for treading this tale's dark path. If its chill gripped you, follow, subscribe, and comment below.